Welcome to Bomberos on Fire, a bilingual podcast where we dive into the world of mental health for first responders and emergency workers. My name is Armando. I'm a firefighter, nurse, and paramedic for over 15 years experience. I'm here to provide you a safe and supportive space for our first responders and emergency workers. So join us on our journey of growth and healing, where together we will learn how to stay strong both physically and mentally. Don't miss a single episode of Bomberos on Fire on Spotify, Apple, Google, or even iHeartRadio. Subscribe now and become part of the community. Thank you for listening. Today's episode of Bomberos on Fire is sponsored by BetterHelp. It is not always easy to talk about mental health when it feels like no one around you really understands your situation, especially in a field that is taboo to talk about it. In my personal case, my family of first responders. We take care of everybody, but we rarely ask for help. Whenever you are feeling anxious, stressed, or just not quite yourself, it can be really hard to know where to turn for help. Well, remember, you are not alone. That is where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp is an online therapy service that connects you with a licensed mental health professional based on your particular needs right from the comfort of your own home. You can start your mental health journey with BetterHelp. You will be matched with a licensed therapist who fits your necessities in a couple of days. BetterHelp makes it easy to find the right therapist for you. The beauty of BetterHelp, it is worldwide, regardless where you are. From San Juan to Berlin, from Orlando to Madrid, BetterHelp is there for you. They have a broad range of mental health therapies available for you that might not be locally. And guess what? BetterHelp isn't just available in English, making it an inclusive platform regardless of where you live or what is your language. Once you match, you can send a message anytime, get timely responses, and you can schedule weekly videos or phone sessions, so you won't ever have to sit in a waiting room again. BetterHelp makes professional mental therapy accessible, affordable, and convenient, so anyone who struggles with life challenge can get help anytime, anywhere. To top it off, BetterHelp costs are based on your locations, preference, and therapist availability. You can cancel your membership at any time for any reason. I believe that everyone deserves the support they need, no matter who they are or where they're from, especially if you are first responders. As a listener of Bomberos on Fire podcast, use our special link betterhelp.com/bomberosonfire for 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp, and join the vast number of people who have taken charge of their mental health with an assistance of an experienced mental health professional therapist. Remember, there's no shame in asking for help, and you are not alone. Let's create a world where mental health is never overlooked, and do not forget to use our link betterhelp.com/bomberosonfire, and you will receive 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp. And now, let's get back to our show. How you doing, guys? My name is Armando from Bomberos on Fire podcast. I'm back with really special guest with a lot of knowledge to share. I didn't know that Panhandle was a different time zone. So we're working on it. But thank you so much, Kathleen, to come over here and talk about your experience and give us some tools to the people listening to us, how to deal with mental stress, anxiety, depression, even suicide thoughts. If you don't mind to introduce yourself to those who are hearing. But before we do that, I want to say thank you to the people around the world. I got people listening from Spain, from Morocco, from United States, from Portugal, Panama, Puerto Rico. I got somebody from Germany, which is Norway, which is weird, but I love it. Yeah,
Wow.
that's the beauty of the internet now. Anybody can hear it. So
Absolutely.
The floor is yours. Introduce yourself and thank you for being here with me.
Of course, I'm always happy to talk about the importance of mental health and first responders. So my name is Kathleen Hensley. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, board certified, but more importantly, a certified first responder counselor. So I work with the majority of the population is first responders and public safety individuals. This is near and dear to my heart. It was a natural cohesion with this population because my family is a firefighter family. My dad and my brother are firefighters, so I have found a nice population that I have enjoyed working with, that I'm trying to help break the stigma of mental health and really just the importance of overall wellness.
Yeah, and that's a unique field because not everybody can deal with first responders or public safety or emergency workers.
Right.
That's an extra care that you need to have to deal with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have learned to speak their language because I've known it, and if clinicians are not in tune with that population, they know it, they sense it, and they're automatically probably not going to be as engaged. So, for instance, like I don't expect every firefighter, let's say, to show up in my office, and I'm willing to go to houses. I'm willing to sit at their kitchen tables after critical instances because I think it's important. So they're much more willing and open to come to a clinical office if they see clinicians that are out there that are willing to show up.
Yeah, and I got a question because it's hard to break that seal to get into the firefighter or the public safety family to be received as one of us. So besides having your family as a background in the first responders, what was the way you introduced yourself or you broke through that barrier? Because it's hard. Because we don't take anybody to talk about our feelings because we don't talk about feelings. Let's start from that. Any
Right.
culture, that's a no-no. So how do you broke that? How do you went into that? I don't know. I'm interested about that because it's hard.
Right. Well, I think it takes building a rapport, a strong rapport and kind of alliance with them. Luckily, I've been blessed with great leadership in this county that has really, pushed the importance of mental health. And when I talk about leadership, I'm talking about brass, I'm talking about battalion chiefs. They've really kind of supported the cohesion of mental health. And I think that was a huge step in the right direction. So I would literally just go from station to station. This is who I am. This is what I do. If you need something, I'm not coming around like, let's talk about your thoughts and feelings today. It was more like, this job can be tough. You see some of the worst. I'm here to help you, not just now, but for the future, for your retirement, just for like an overall healthy individual. And I think it's the minimum we can do for our first responders.
And I appreciate your help.
Of course.
Because we deal with a lot of things that we don't want to talk about, even with our families, even with people that even next to us on the station. It's hard. It is hard. And having somebody we can trust and it's hard. And you know that once you break that trust, at least in the fireman, that's what I know, you're done.
Right.
That's it. You move on.
That's right.
So you have a tough job, and I'm glad you're doing it. You're the perfect person for that. And where are you located? So the people kind of know where you are.
Right. So I'm in Walton County, Florida, which is up the Panhandle, so Southern Alabama. I'm raised in Alabama, so the accent is obvious, I'm sure. So we are a fairly large county, and I've just been working here. I have a private practice and see clients in Destin, and our goal was to branch out to first responders. So our clinic, the Crane Center, is located in Destin, Florida, and I work with Dr. Eric Goldberg, and we started this first responder mission. And so it has grown tremendously. It's it takes a lot. It takes a lot to,
Yeah.
one, become trained in it, because you do hear the hard things, and there's nothing wrong with talking, because talking is processing. And a lot of
Yeah.
times that's kind of firehouse talk about, a call or two. But sometimes everyone's perspective is different of a scene, and that's just the job in itself. Everyone's perspective or interpretation is different. So, 5 people may not struggle with a call, and one may feel like, oof, that one didn't sit well with me. So they're not the ones that are going to necessarily speak up, because the majority of, let's say, medics or the firefighters on scene didn't seem to have they didn't have an issue with it. So it kind of is important to have that person that you can rely on to say, that was difficult, hard for me to deal with for whatever reason. Because I always say, first responders have containers. They're brilliant at compartmentalizing, because they go from tone to call to call to call.
Yeah.
So they're building up this, they're just piling this container in and not processing it. And eventually it gets to be too much.
Yeah.
So that's
And
when I feel like it's important that they have someone that they're like, they have an outlet, a resource. So that's where I come in.
to release that stress, because I seen the worst when you have no outlets. I seen that happening, and I think that was the reasons why I started this podcast almost 6 months ago, because the amount of suicide that happened in Central Florida, and I knew one of the guys who committed suicide, and that helped me, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And my mom is a life coach in Spanish.
Oh.
So she told me, "Hey, why don't you talk about it?" Yeah, I mean that helps. But she said, "Why don't you talk about it like online or podcasts or videos?" So that's how everything started, just by releasing that frustration and that anger. Then, like, I couldn't help one of my brothers to don't get to that point of no return.
Right. Right.
And to me, I think even the podcast to me is a therapy. Just talking about it.
Absolutely. It absolutely is raising awareness, because we don't have to, and my heart goes out to any company, any firehouse, any police department that has had to deal or cope with the loss of someone that has died by suicide. And that's very, very, very hard for a lot of people, because there's not a lot of understanding how somebody could get to that place. But from a clinical perspective, I see how it happens when people deal with the worst of the worst. They don't have outlets. They don't have anyone to process some of the things that they see, understand the effects of what they're seeing is normal. I mean, I feel like a lot of times that there's like, you're considered weak, or you can't do the job. That to me is not even the case. Some of the strongest, most resilient firefighters that I know can handle a call. This is not the call, it's the effects of the call. So I'm helping with those negative effects, because it's a matter of time before it's, unfortunately, a pediatric call or mass casualty or in the line of duty. And in a bare minimum, it's very hard for people to cope with that.
Yeah, it is.
So
I'm telling you from personal experience, it is. I was fortunate to work as a paramedic and first responder in another country, in Venezuela, which is South America. And talking about mental health, that's not even a thought. That don't exist. Like, over there, the firemen, they work 7 days, 24 hours straight, and they got 14 days off. So
wow.
the suicide, depression, anxiety, the domestic violence is really high in the fire service. The divorce rate, the cheating, all that, because you are 7 days, 24 hours with the same crew. And it's not like you are in a golf course taking care of that. You are in the capital city,
Right, right.
stabbing, shooting, car accidents
Mm-hmm.
all day long with no resources, because that's another one.
Mm-hmm.
So I that's why I also do like an bilingual podcast when I got guests that I speak Spanish, so I can help that too.
That's
Because
wonderful.
everybody needs help, regardless the
Absolutely.
culture, regardless anything. Everybody needs help,
Absolutely. That's
and
very
and even here in Central Florida, you got so many calls. Like I used to work in a fire department. What I did 20 calls in 24 hours. That was my minimum.
mm-hmm.
That was the norm. And now I'm in the Noto Fire Department, which I do at the most 10, and it's double medic fireman. So
Uh-huh.
we take one. It doesn't matter how many calls I got half of those calls.
I see.
So my family noticed how I changed after I went to a different fire department. How my state, how my mental health actually improved just to go into another fire department. What is the volume is less, and they take care of you in a way, putting more resources available for yourself. So that's one of the things I
And the
noticed that, and
resources
also that we
component
got a peer
is
support team
very
now.
important. I can't
Yes,
stress that enough. Just having someone that's culturally competent, that they have someone that, if it's not peer to peer, that it's escalated up to someone that they do trust. But I can't reiterate enough that it's not a sign of weakness or that you can't do the job. Unfortunately, being a first responder is not a normal job. I mean, people don't call 911 on their best days. They are, yeah, and we are seeing medics and firefighters and EMTs and law enforcement officers that have to deal day in, day out, call after call with people's pain, anguish, violence, death, sadness. But you're also human beings.
Yeah.
You're also your own human being with your own thoughts and feelings and families at home, and at understanding what that does to you as a person, because the job can change you. It can change your perspective. It can change your emotional stress level. So that's why I'm here.
It's true. And because not everybody have access to your resources, at least in Central Florida or South Florida, because you are literally 8 hours away from from where I am. So what
I
would
can
be
make a trip. Don't worry.
There you go. So what would be the best or one of the tools to a fireman they can do to deal with that stressful call if they have nobody with your knowledge and background? Let's say we went to a pediatric code and back to the station, and it was unfortunately the pediatric fail. And how do you, or what do you recommend to the guys in the station what to do in that specific moment? And then you can find help, go to a peer support team. But what do you do right there in that acute incident?
Right. I think that is the report of, like, what we describe as critical incident defusings. So anybody that was there, we circle around at the kitchen table, and there's a reason that we facilitate those. But getting someone that's kind of somewhat trained and knowledgeable in diffusings and debriefings would be helpful, because it helps take some of the emotional, let's say, the feelings out of the call when we're processing it on more of a rational basis. Like, I did this, then this happened, then this happened. But it's more like, what was the worst part of that call for you? And for a lot of first responders, that's the emotional part of a call, because they'll always be able to identify it. So once they start talking about it, and there may be tears and there may be anxiety, that's okay, because that means that we're dealing with it.
Okay.
I get concerned when we just don't say anything. Then we go home eventually, and hopefully that the scotch dulls or numbs the anxiety. Maybe we can get a couple hours of sleep, and then we'll be doing it again. And when you do that over and over and over, it's complex, it's vicarious trauma. So that's my goal, is to kind of just give education to it, to be able to identify it, and other people, a brotherhood, if you will, any firefighters that are together, identify it, identify different changes in each other, and just support them that there's no negativity, I guess, in asking for or needing more assistance because of a call or because of a pediatric death. And they need to know that people won't give up on them.
Yeah, that you're not alone, basically.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what happened. And in those situations, right, because I know table talk, it helps, but some people are a little more reserved to open when everybody's surrounding, like chief, captain, the chief, or the call, and then you got EMS captain, and then you got this. So you will recommend, like, isolate that person. Hey, let's talk about privately somewhere.
Right. Hopefully, if there's someone it's kind of identifying who is trusted, who they feel like they can go to, because of course they don't want it talked about. So finding someone that they trust, that they can go to, that's kind of isolated, separated, because some people don't like to talk in groups. That's not an anomaly. They don't like to be in a group setting like that, especially when it can be emotional. But just having someone to help, like, walk them through and validating their emotions, validating and understanding and meeting them where they're at, as I say. Like, I hear you. That was a tough call. And just letting them walk through it with you does a lot.
Okay. So basically kind of go through the motions of the call. Okay.
And then just making sure, like, they're knowledgeable about, like, if you're not sleeping at night, if you're having anxiety, if you're having, if we're having intrusive negative thoughts about the call. Okay, let's escalate it and let's get you some care.
Okay. And what will be a tool that somebody can use, not just firemen or emergency responders, anybody, to alleviate that anxiety or that depression by themselves? Because a lot of people, they got the stigma that if you call a mental health counselor or therapist or psychologist, you're crazy, you're nuts.
Right.
And it's true. So a lot of people have that stigma, that taboo, that if you call one of you guys, it means you are completely crazy, you're going to a psychiatric center. And it's not.
No.
I think we should have a mental health assessment, or at least treatment, once a year. Like the same we got a physical, we should have a mental treatment.
Absolutely.
So what do you recommend to those people that they don't want to talk about it, but they want to find a way to release that a little bit, that depression, anxiety, or those feelings? What do you...
Well, I always feel like physical health is very important. So if sometimes you can get that physical energy out, it helps with the anxiety. But of course, the importance of deep breathing or tactical breathing to be able to get the anxiety down is always helpful. I give first responders almost like a toolbox of things that they can utilize in order to kind of self-cue these calming techniques. I'm happy to pass those along to you, just so you can have it as a resource.
Yeah, perfect. I'll put in the link and everything.
Okay, perfect. It's just different quick techniques and tools to help someone while they're, if they're trying to process it on their own. But I do think that it's very important that they have somebody that's kind of aware of what they're dealing with, so they can at least have an outlet.
Okay, so the best tool is find somebody that you trust, and you go from there.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. And I'm curious about it. Have you seen a change into the mental health of first responders before and after COVID, or is the same? Because when COVID hit, we had an increase of behavioral calls, a lot, from anxiety, depression, and then after COVID was insane. So many people anxiety, including the people that I work with. They have to go for PTSD treatment. Several of my coworkers after COVID hit. So have you seen an increase or any changes after that?
Absolutely. I would definitely say first responders and, of course, and civilians in general. I think there was an uptick in a lot of different mental health issues post COVID, and I think there's maybe a little bit more awareness of mental health. So there is a positive shift, and there's an organic
Okay.
change, but I think there still has to be a lot of work done and continue.
Yeah. Yes.
But
Yes.
it's kind of like I preach, yes, physical health is important. I make sure that my guys and gals get their labs and their physicals done, but also it's just as important to do a mental health check-in, in my opinion. We train to high expectations. I think training and resiliency for first responders and mental health is just as important, and it can be done. And
Yeah.
while we
And it
are
can be done.
starting this out at the beginning of young firefighters' careers,
Yeah.
not that
It
it
could,
will
it,
happen to everyone. However, it is a high likelihood based on just, the trauma that you will have to experience. That's not even having to cope with one's own life. So
yes.
I feel like it's very, very important that there are things on the front end that we do on onboarding of firefighters, medics, EMTs, law enforcement officers, that we really teach them the warning signs before it gets to a point of like, okay, we're in this and we've been doing it for 10 years, and why do I feel and have these thoughts? And when I feel like there could be a shift on the front end of like just awareness,
Oh,
like this is a possibility, this could happen. So if you're not sleeping, or you're isolating more, or you feel overtly sad or helpless, or intrusive thoughts about a call, like these things, if we're made aware of, then it's almost like a reminder, well, there's something we can do about it.
oh wow. So it will be not a crazy idea, but it will be great if we can implement some mental health counseling on like the academy, fire academy,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the firemen, they get into the service when it's 17, 18 years old.
Right, right,
And in
right.
my case, I've been doing it in 2 countries. So I started when I was 16, and I got into the U.S. Fire Service when I was 30. So I've been doing it for a long time in 2 different cultures, and I seen the change and the cultures and all that. And that would be great if you can implement that right on the academy. Just take
Right,
1 day just on mental health.
right. And just really just having an understanding and awareness, I think is just very important. And it doesn't, I
I,
think it
yeah, I can
lessens the
imagine. Yeah, I
stigma
bet.
in the future
And a
for
question
first
too: how
responders.
different?
So that's
Yeah,
my goal.
yeah, and you're doing a great job. Trust me.
Oh,
I'm trying to push your work outside your little area. So see
yeah,
somebody. My goal is at least someone can listen to us and change their behavior and help them. I'm happy
right.
because I'm not doing this for money. I'm just doing just to go on and help
Mm, I'm with
my
you. I'm
family.
absolutely. I feel like it's just so important, and it's the minimum that we can do for the people that are out there, saving lives and doing the job that the majority of us don't want to do in civilian world. I mean, we as civilians may see 2 to 3 critical instances in our lifetimes, compared to a lifetime firefighter, law enforcement officer, first responder who may see 800 to 900.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Wow.
even the sheer numbers of like how are we supposed to deal and process with that when that's not something is talked about. So it's really just changing a narrative. It has nothing to do with weakness, and everything to do with building resiliency.
Got it. And how different is from going from the fire service guys on the fire station to a police? How different are we on the point of view, the way you introduce yourself? Because it is a difference. I mean, we work in the same field. To me, they're like my cousins because they take care of me when I'm going to calls on scene. But I imagine it's different because we don't go for the same goal. We try to help people, but we don't have the same way to help people.
Right. Right. There is a little bit different. There is some differences in the response. Um, and there's always the jovial back and forth of firefighters and cops that
Yeah.
I'm not immune to it. Um, but conceptually, there's not a big difference in terms of what the experience is.
Okay.
I think the main difference is um, at least up here, a lot of our law enforcement officers, they don't have, necessarily somebody with them, a partner all the time. Our firehouses, we have at least groups of individuals that can come together after that. And even if it is kitchen talk, it's talk. Um, Sometimes with law enforcement, they have to sit with it unless
Yeah.
they're kind of a little bit more isolated. So, um,
Hmm.
that's where the main difference is. And sometimes it's just personality, but at the end of
Yeah.
the day, trauma is trauma, meaning like a traumatic event or critical incident. The brain doesn't know the difference if you're a firefighter or EMT or paramedic or law enforcement
That's true.
officer.
That's true. That's true. I didn't thought about it, the isolation, because they're in the police car all day long by themselves. Most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have a partner.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Right.
don't see their partners only on the calls. Other than that, they're by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And at least I
Right.
got a bunch of knuckleheads in my station that I can at least talk about it and joke about stuff.
Right. Right.
That's actually true. And plus, the police guys, they like donuts, so they love that. They coffee and donuts for all for them. At least we have a chance to work out, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, actually, the police point of view. And if somebody, right, how do the people know how to contact you or your program, and how do that works? How I can tell somebody, hey, if you need help and you're in this area, or even that, just call you or contact you. How
Mm-hmm.
do they do that?
So I've streamlined it because I've learned about in this process um, the need of first responders, and I take this like a lot of them know, a one phone call approach, and that is because a first responder is going to call your office one time, and if you say I'll see you in 2 to 3 weeks, they're not going to make the appointment. If you don't answer the phone, they're not going to make an appointment. So I have streamlined it to where, like, literally, if you call the clinic, it says, if you're a first responder, press 4. You press 4, someone answers, and I try and get someone in within, I would say, 48 to 72 hours. Because the likelihood of something else coming up for them is very high.
Yes.
And so that will be, 2 weeks from now in a first responder world, imagine the level of things that they have to either see, process, deal with, manage. That's not even home life. So
Yeah.
I have streamlined it to the point where they call straight to our clinic and we get you in as soon as possible. Because I know that if any more time goes by, it's, oh, I've got it, no big deal. But it really was, because they wouldn't be calling if it wasn't.
Yes, exactly.
So,
especially when they call, because we don't call
right.
nobody.
No, that's right. So I know the importance of that, and that's what I've really promoted is this one phone call approach, and just getting people in and meeting them where they're at, or going to stations and just stopping by and just doing like check-ins. I'm here if y'all need anything. Not
Got it.
necessarily this, let's sit down and let's talk about your thoughts and feelings. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but firemen are not going to do that.
1 second. There you go. Yeah, we lost the connection for like 2-3 seconds. That's why I'm like,
problem.
wait a second.
Okay.
But and I got another question too, because the firefighter life is basically, let's say the career is like 20 to 30 years. Gratefully, now we're going back to 25 if you work in the Florida retired system, which is amazing. Do you deal with a lot of retirees? Because one thing is the beginning of the guy hungry to go to a call and
Oh,
burning
yeah.
fire.
Kicking in
In
doors.
another one is the guy who's been 10, 15 years in the service that is kind of like, I've seen enough. If I don't have to get a fire today, I'm happy. And
Hmm.
the other one is the guy who's like, I got 1 year and 3 weeks to retire. I'm done.
Hmm.
So how did that change the way you approach at least a fireman? Because that's your feel.
Right. I think retirement is interesting, and I think those individuals are more and more learning kind of the repercussions of the job. So, for instance, if one's riding down the side of the road, it and they have just a flood of memories or flashbacks or images or thoughts of a certain call, that's not shocking to me because you got to think of 30 years ago, we certainly were not talking about mental health in first responder work. We were not having a
No.
cat, as we say, walk around a firehouse. I mean, they would have been like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
So I am actually getting more and more retirees just because when they're trying to find their way post um, a, a career of being a firefighter, and then trying to help them establish goals and things that they want to do and accomplish, and making sure they're healthy from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint, because they've likely not taken care of themselves as
Yeah. And
well as they could possibly do.
and I imagine you need a plan B if you're retiring, because
Hmm.
doing the same thing for 30, 25 years, whatever
Absolutely.
time it is, once you get out, because you used to work 24 hours, 48, at least that's a norm that I know
Yes.
in Florida. Exception for Boca Raton, they work 24/72, which is another podcast talk about that. Um, you need something else to do, right? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
kind of work in Publix, putting the groceries in the bag.
Right. Right. Like I think and I think it's important that retirees, just as much as we've try and take care of early in the career, um, and bring an awareness to the ones going into the fire service. It's just as important that we help ones that are about to get out, like the expectations and having conversations about what retirement can look like.
Yeah.
Do they have plans? What do they want to do? How they're where they're at emotionally, mentally. Um, Most are like, "Hey, I'm good. I'm running out." But as the days and weeks tick on,
Yeah.
how are they still doing physically? How are they still doing from a mental health standpoint? I would love to see retirees still have a little bit of a bond and still checking in with one another, um, in an ideal world. But
Yeah, but that's the ideal war. It's like I know I've seen a lot of retirees that they get divorced by the end of the career, and then that
right,
screwed up the whole system, the whole plans that they have, or something happened at that time that they get injured, or
right.
something happened like COVID. COVID retired a lot of people.
Mm.
I noticed that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people retire
Mm-hmm.
from the fire service, nursing, medics. They find another way. Like I'm plan B, I'm done, because
Mm-hmm.
the amount of stress that put on them. And I
Sure.
always tell people that if you are so it's so difficult to deal with the fire service because you've been there for so long, or you don't have to be that long. You've been through so many calls in a short period of time, and you're really thinking about going to another place, another career. Just do it. Just
Mm-hmm.
whatever make you happy. Just do it, because at the end, doesn't matter how many overtimes you work. It it doesn't matter. It's your mental health and how happy you are. That's what I find out, a lot of people. And I got a friend who went from EMT to police officer, kind of, and now he's a flight attendant.
Wow.
Yeah, he said, I'm done.
Yeah.
I like traveling, and they pay for it, so why not?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy for him. So
Um,
would you, your perspective, you recommend having like a plan B or
mhm.
something else? Because every fireman have at least two more jobs.
Right, right.
Yeah, we
Mm-hmm. Have
another
100.
trade.
Yes, yes.
We
Um,
don't work just 24/48. We work
no,
24 and then extra.
absolutely, absolutely. I am not a, yes, that is absolutely the case. Um, but I do think that they just kind of assess what that looks like for them. You
Yeah.
know, what goals they have for themselves, for their families, what it looks like. But they go ahead and towards the end, start thinking and planning for that. Um, have you talked to your spouse? Do you even know your spouse?
Yeah,
Do y'all,
that's true.
because you're going to be together more than you probably have while you've been
Yes,
married. So,
that's true.
like, you
That's
might
yeah,
want to make sure that do a check in there because you're going to be
that's
around
true.
each other a lot, which may lead you to go into another profession. But
Just to
all
don't deal with that literally.
yes, yeah. So I just want to make sure that they're continue to be set up for and not. It's just it really is truly bringing awareness to just physical health and mental health, overall well being for an individual as they start out their career and as they start to get out.
Got it. Yeah, it's 100%. I'm with you in that part. You need to plan the same way you plan your retirement, the same way you plan your workouts in the morning. I
Hmm.
think having a plan for your
Hmm.
mental health is probably is more important than anything else
Absolutely.
because without mental health, you cannot accomplish anything,
Right.
in my
Right.
opinion.
I completely agree.
Yeah, and for those people that right now are in the, I don't know if you got any type of advice. They are in that tunnel vision that the suicide is an option because fortunately, I don't have nobody going through that. But if somebody listened to us, what would be a good way to remove yourself from that thought? What would be a good tool to say, hey, I know you contemplating that option, but that's not
Hmm.
the option you want to take. What do you recommend?
I would
Probably in
definitely say,
general.
right, right. I would definitely say there's always the 988 number
Hmm.
individuals can call. It's a suicide hotline. It's confidential. Um, you know, and it's not uncommon to have there's passive suicidal ideation and active thoughts. And passive being like, I just don't want to be here anymore. But then the more acute severity level of, I plan not to be here and I'm having these thoughts and I have a plan and action to take to proceed, then I would highly suggest them reaching out to a suicide hotline, going straight, to an ER just to get some help because it is out there. And then just kind of really reestablishing some protective measures for themselves. So, support systems, if they have friends in the department, if they have friends in leadership, if they have family members, whoever their support system is, and just being honest about it, I think is key. Because I feel like them knowing, like, I want to help you in a confidentiality setting and being able to say, like, there is nothing you can't tell me that I can't help you with. So not being necessarily fearful of admitting to having those thoughts is number one.
Okay.
And then what do we do with that? Okay, and wonder and kind of walk through when it started, how we got here, and what we can do moving forward. And I just really reassure them that I will not give up on them. There's a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of clinical staffs out there, especially in the mental health community, that we are really fighting for them knowing, them understanding that we're not going to give up on them because they wouldn't give up on us in a house fire.
That's true. We
And
won.
they would push it and they would push it, and that's why I say like that's what makes them so remarkable to me. Is I they wouldn't, if I was, God forbid, in a car accident, they wouldn't say, just sit there and we'll be right with you, and I'm going to end up cutting my own self out of the car.
Oh,
They would say,
that
we've
won't fly.
got you. Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
you. We can do this. And I say, this is just the direct opposite. I'm just helping you in a different capacity. So
Yeah.
let me help you.
Yeah,
So,
that's great advice.
so I just definitely suggest there's the suicide hotline, getting a hold of any chaplain who
Okay.
works in a lot of fire organizations, peer support teams, if we have those set up down there, and just really verbalizing and knowing if they're having those type of thoughts, that there is resources. That doesn't make, we don't use the word crazy, but we've shifted the narrative from that. So it's important that people understand that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to say that, but that allows people or a team of clinicians to help that person, because at the end of the day, it's getting them back to the job, or getting them back healthy for their family, or getting them back healthy for themselves, or back. That's the whole goal. That's my whole goal for them.
Yeah, no, and it's a beautiful goal. And coming from the fire service, thank you for your service to us, because we need help. We do need help, and we don't ask for help. And like I said, I think that's the most important part, is just breaking that barrier. Say, hey, you need help. Let me help you out, because you are not alone. You're not by yourself. You got people. And there is any like website, or besides the suicide hotline, that people can go and check it out, resources, or check it out links, or do you guys have a website or a place that people can go?
We do. We have our website, which is thecranecenter.net, and we have blogs on there that I think are very
Okay.
helpful, and just links to resources on our website. And of course, our contact information will be on there. We have, and they can reach out to me. I can always help and try and facilitate getting resources or finding someone in the area.
Okay.
That will help them, because I guess just knowing that help is out there is important.
It's important. And it doesn't matter which state are you. If they say somebody from Georgia or California or I don't know, Alaska, say, hey, I need some help, but I don't know where, and they call you. It doesn't matter where they are in the States.
Yeah, I will either see if I can help them, or then I can at least use my resources to see if I can't get them quality care by just networking from the first responder mental health community. Even though there's not a, it's more of a calling to do this work. And there are some great trailblazers out there that have helped me in this field, because it's not the warm and fuzzy community and populations. So
no, it is not. It is not.
so
That's true. That's
I
true.
will, but I have I guess as my networking availability can help with that. But there's always someone out there clinically that does want to help. And the first part is for first responders to have the strength that sometimes to pick up that phone call, even though it may weigh 1,000 pounds at that moment. It'll be the best decision they make for themselves, for their family, for their firehouse, for their longevity of their career. So that's my main message.
That's a great message. And what do you think about the EPA? Because I have a lot of different opinions about that program. People don't like it. People or don't use it, or they don't know they have one. Or some people said it's wonderful. They help me to deal with a lot of things. Well, I'd like to know your opinion since an expert in that subject, at least in that realm of mental health. If a fireman needs help, can they also use the EPA system on their fire department or their county? Or what do you
Hmm.
think about it?
Yeah, I think EAPs are
Yeah.
a wonderful asset to
Mhm.
individuals. I can definitely say working with in conjunction with our county here, it's been a huge improvement because once you build the trust and the confidentiality piece, because that's the one thing that a lot of times is the resistance of using it is confidentiality. And so, like you were saying previously, if you lose trust, that's it. So
Yep.
I think that's been so key in doing that, but ultimately, and also having a culturally competent clinician in the EAP system is important, and it just being something that's a part of like, hey, this is a benefit. This is good. This is for you. This is what we do for you. I think is huge. So they do work, um, just like peer support works. Talking with a chaplain works. It's finding a clinician in EAP. It can work. It's just depending on what it looks like
Got it.
with each department.
Got it. And one last thing, because it's almost an hour.
Hmm.
I know you are first responder counselor, right?
Yes.
Specialize on that, so people know when listening to us. What do you need to become one of a specialized in first responders? I imagine a bachelor's in mental health, or because people wondering, hey, is that like online class, or that's
Yeah.
you want to build trust?
Completely understand. That's a great question. So, so in order to be a clinical counselor, you have to have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. So, past that, this is a certification that is given once you have done the training, and that is online. And there's quite a few of us, and not a large amount of clinicians in Florida. However, there are some. I did mine certified first responder counseling online,
Okay.
and so it's more about understanding terminology, understanding vicarious trauma, PTSD, which as yes, clinicians we do understand that, but really the impact it has on first responders, the impact it has on first responder families, preparing yourself because it does me no good if you're a therapist and a first responder comes in to tell you about a bad call and the therapist crying. You've got to be able to manage, like, and then you've got
Yeah.
firefighters
Yeah.
controlling a therapist, which is uh, not the
Yeah.
way it needs to be. So uh, it really it's an additional certification. And then I got out and spent time with firefighters, but I also, like I said, grew up in this culture, which was a nice um, or easier transition. But it
Yes.
does require extensive training and learning, as it should,
Perfect. Yeah, because
because they will call you out if you don't know it.
yes.
You know,
Yeah,
if
they
you don't
will.
know about the humming technique when breathing, and I mean, I've learned a lot.
I bet. I bet you learn from us. It is not, we are not an easy crowd. Let's put it that way. Especially mental health. We are not, especially sense of
Yes,
humor could be a little bit rough for
yes,
some people that are not used to that.
yes.
Uh,
But
or coming
I
out of working
appreciate it.
48 hours or 24 hours. Like I came out from shift this morning. I did 24 yesterday.
Mm.
And my partner did 48 hours. So the level of patience that he had compared with mine yesterday, because I was fresh, it was really small compared with mine.
Yeah,
So when we have those ETOH, when we have those people that are not, they want to cooperate that much, I notice a difference. Hey, bro, I take over. You drive, and I'll take over
right,
because
right.
I don't think you can take it right now. It's 48 hours away from
Yeah.
family, away from
Hmm.
doing
Hmm.
anything. She's stuck in the same station for 48 hours. It's gonna take you. can
Right.
actually do something, some damage to you. And
Absolutely.
since mental health is something so broad, it's like a big umbrella. Do you guys also offer help for the families of the first responders? Because it's not just, to me, it's not just the guy or the girl
Hmm.
or whoever first responder. It's also their family, because
Yes.
that's the best support you can get.
Right.
Besides you guys, obviously.
I definitely, yes, I see families. I do marital. I see children. At the end of the day, if if it's not the job that's stressing them, but it's home life for whatever reason, if I can help alleviate that stress by whether it's stress with your teenage kid and you notice something's going on but not quite sure, just so first responders feel like, okay, if I can get them taken care of because we're fixers,
Yes,
if
we are.
I know,
Yes,
so
we are.
if I can help carry that burden, figure out what's going on, then they're less likely to be preoccupied with that at work. And so that's kind of how I help them, almost like a secondary way of trying to help them if it alleviates stress from what they have going on personally in their personal lives. So I see a lot of
Well,
first responder families, spouses, and I
yeah.
wish, and I on the front side of things as firefighters go in and bring in awareness. I wish that we did more. Spouses, you're married to a first responder and you're married to a
Ah,
firefighter. I think it'd be great to see like this is what it could look like, and this is what you might be, and you might see, and this is why he may not talk to you when he first gets off shift because it could have been a bad one and he's having to process it or he's zoned out because we know the
mm,
hypervigilant roller coaster. Um, because a spouse could interpret that he doesn't even like me. He doesn't even want to talk to me. He's checked out on TikTok and he's scrolled it all day long. Well, there's a reason why that happens. There's a
that's true.
reason why that happens. So if we can educate spouses on the front end, I think that's huge. Just so they have an awareness because they didn't necessarily sign up to be a firefighter, but they see the repercussions of.
That's
And
true.
so if anybody can point out warning signs, a lot of times it's a spouse or
That,
partner. It's somebody
yeah,
that's with them. They're like, oof,
yeah.
he
You're a
just,
little bit cranky.
yep. Mm-hmm.
Too cranky
So,
today. You're snappy. Wow,
so
I didn't thought about it. It's true. It's not just us on the front line. It's also a spouse or partner that I can actually detect because they spend time with us. I mean, sometimes they spend more time with the station than the wife or the partner. So
right,
they know
right.
better when we
Which
change
I
the
think,
behavior.
right. And I think they're quite resilient because most of those are at home. If they are, they're trying to man the fort, if you will, and stay home with their children or pets or lives or work, and they're doing it kind of
Mm-hmm.
on their own while their partner, whomever, is on shift.
Uh,
So, making sure they have
we lost. There
the
you go.
the rapport and understanding, I think, is important.
Got it. So, wow, this is really interesting conversation. I have to say that I'm learning a lot that I didn't know because I feel like I'm new in this field. I'm used to being a fire and working the code, working pediatrics, working car accident, especially the rope rescue and confined space. But mental health to me is something new, and I kind of like it, to be honest. Doing this podcast is more and more and more like I like this area. I mean, it's not that bad.
Yeah,
Like people
yeah.
will say, it's not that bad. Um, but one last advice, thought before we conclude our podcast. It's been wonderful. I have to say thank you in
Oh,
advance for giving me an hour of your time because I know you're a busy person. Just to talk about it. It is
absolutely.
it is awesome. Hopefully we can repeat again, or you can bring more people on the other side of Florida
Sure.
to talk about it, and we can be or I can go there and show people how your facility, how everybody in your team works. So they have
Absolutely.
awareness and I can put a light on you guys. So maybe or hopefully somebody make a phone call or talk to somebody. Hey, if I need help, I can talk. I
Mhm.
can go to Kate, and Kate can find me resources if she's too far away. If I'm in Miami, she's
Right,
in Destin.
right. Yeah, I think the major takeaway is at the end of the day, um, first responders are remarkable human beings to me. They are human beings, so they have rightfully so appropriate levels of emotions and and feelings, and making sure that they know that they can get through it, that somebody will hear them, that somebody can meet them where they're at, that speaks their same language, that they'll be heard, and knows that there's somebody that just they won't give up on them because they wouldn't give
Yeah,
up on us.
that's true. That's 100% true. And I appreciate your work again. Thank
Of
you for
course.
all your work. 'Cause it's not easy going through us.
And
Dealing
I
with us
say
is not easy. I know that. If
it's been a joy of my career, truly, because I've seen some wonderful things happen. I only hope to see more. And I'm grateful for every first responder out there that gets up every single day and makes a choice to do this job, no matter where they're at. So I say thank you.
Yeah, and trust me, people will take it as a compliment coming from you. And if anybody again wants to reach you or wants to talk to you guys, you have a. Can you repeat your website contact or a phone
Uh-huh.
number to contact you and your office and your team,
Sure.
and
Um,
or Instagram account that you have?
Absolutely. I'm Counselor Cat on Instagram. That's with a K, Counselor Cat.
Yeah.
And our website is www.thecranecenter.net. And
Okay.
we're located in Destin, Florida, and our phone number is 850-226-7100.
Thank you so much, and I'll put all that information on the description. With your link for the Instagram, the link for the website for your Destin, and the phone number, so everybody can actually access to that, and hopefully start making the change and making the culture of like, yeah, we need to talk about mental health. It's
Yes,
part of who we are. It's not
yes, we
just
are.
about making a hole in the roof and going to
Right,
rescue primary search. That's awesome, and I love that. But we also have to talk about mental health.
right, right. And there's people out there like me that are willing to help. So just reach out
Yeah,
and we'll do what we
yeah.
can for you.
And thank you so much to listeners and Bomberos on Fire for around the world. And eventually we will do a Spanish podcast. I got a question before we go. If there is any like bilingual counselors or people? Because in my case, I speak two
Mm,
languages, so I'm versatile in both. But some people feel more comfortable in Spanish, for example, than English.
mm.
I imagine you have counselors or professionals that they can speak both, right? So the people can feel welcome, I guess, easier.
Right, right. That would be a great addition to our team. Unfortunately, right now I don't have anyone.
Okay,
Um, uh,
well, you will eventually.
yeah, I'm like that'll maybe I need to put that on my radar to maybe tackle next. But I think that's a huge important point, and I appreciate you bringing that to light because I do think that is so valuable.
Yeah, yeah, because sometimes speaking the same language can help. And I notice with my
Absolutely.
patients that I speak Spanish. Oh, my Portuguese is kind of rusty, but I get away with that. Uh, and they appreciate when you speak the language. Even it's just
Right.
simple words, and it
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
But
That's
anyway, thank you for being here and giving me your time. And appreciate it, everybody. Bomberos on Fire. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.